Oh, what's going on, guys? That's Achilles over there. And, oh, he's over here. You want to say hi, buddy? Shoulder? No love. Why don't you ever want to be in my videos? Okay, my name is Tommy. His name is Achilles. This cat tolerates me sometimes. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I got a different idea for video. Is this a new series forever and ever? Probably not. But as I find inspiration, shall we say, I'd like to share it with y'all. I already shared it with the patrons, but I want to make a video about it because I'm just real proud of it. In TTRPGs, villains, big bad evil individuals, antagonists, so on and so forth, are individuals we get pretty attached to, especially me. That's my favorite part about being a GM. I'm not playing one character, I'm playing 1d100 characters, which means I get to build everything, right? I think I know a lot of people, and I think I was one of those people who likes to pet his cat while he's talking to people on the internet, I guess. But I digress. Who tend to build a little over the top. That's fair. That's reasonable. Happens to the best of us. Okay, he legitimately thought about it. I had to try it. We want to make sure we're building, when we build things that will challenge our players, but the balance, again, can just be so hard to do. I've come up with an interesting formula, and I want to share it with y'all, but in any case, if you're liking what you see, and like, subscribe, ding the bell. Today, like I said, I've had a bunch of new patrons come down, especially at the higher tiers. I'm a very, very happy boy. So today, this episode of Your Stuff was brought to you in part by one of our newest patrons, Grant Might Be Me, man with the most DACA of all the patrons I've ever had in my whole life, and our newest tier 7. That dog outside's really loud, but thank you for your help, man. Now, okay, story time. And really quickly, I don't know how many of you are watching. Matthew, Lucia, Antonia, Jaden, Danny, this will spoil the crap out of the Dominion War. You have been warned. But as the premise, we added a new character to the game not super long ago. Said character is a Damn Fear Oracle, because why wouldn't you be when you could take a curse that gives you negative energy affinity, which is something you've already accepted to be a Damn Fear. It's all upside. And as she and I were talking, putting her character together, figuring it out and stuff, one of the first things that came up was the presence of her father, a powerful NPC who has spent most of their time as this character was growing up, just kind of secretly making it so things fell a little easier for that vampire's daughter. A little money here, a little money there. Suddenly those robbers or assassins or whatever are, well, they're indisposed, shall we say. The game this character is joining also is a mythic game. So that means it's a mythic vampire, which we aren't going to talk about in super detail, just know that it's really powerful. Like blot out the sun powerful. Of all the things out there, a mythic vampire probably is something that would survive the big catalyst to start the adventure of that campaign, Galarian being destroyed in the events of Doomsday Dawn. Turns out I liked our TPK so much I've turned it into a whole setting. Also, I like science fantasy. Win-win. And that player and I, we've established that the character's father will play a regular role in the campaign. They'll be around, they'll be watching, they'll be waiting, they need their child for something. I haven't put all the details together yet. What can I say? We're still like level 5. I have a lot of time to figure this out. And this was a character that's jumped in several sessions on. After we've already done some work on the game, suddenly I have a new big bad monster thing to establish in the world. Though it's been established that thus far the character, I guess I ought to just use her name, Aisling's father has been super kind to her. That kindness doesn't come from love. It comes from, you're important, you're my legacy, I have a child for a reason. Eventually this will sour, they will attack the party, but I have somebody more in mind for the game's, shall I dare say it, last boss. That thing is also a very much less personal acquaintance of the parties. So suddenly I have something to add to my game that I don't necessarily want to be a sub-boss. That feels like I'm shorting a player, but I don't want to overbuild it and suddenly here's like the most powerful thing ever. So I came up with I guess we can call it a mechanic to determine how ultimately powerful Aisling's father is. It can apply to a lot of different games, a lot of different ways. I will first describe it as it applies to us. At the moment, Aisling's father is a 20th level vampire blood rager. And that's an entirely different rant on all of the things that exist in Pathfinder's universe that are undead, that can benefit from the morale bonuses while raging. There's a vampire barbarian in the monster codex for the love of Urgafella that gets to cheat this. I don't see why I can't. It seems super flavorful for the character. This character will make their appearance the first time Aisling goes below, I haven't really set a number, I guess I'm going to say about a third of her health. Should she get accidentally crit, should things swarm her, so on and so forth, Dad will show up, and Dad being a 20th level Blood Rager with full wealth by level, they're right now level 5 Mythic 1, probably means Dad's gonna clear the combat really, really fast. We've made so many jokes at home about Dad's mad whenever Dad shows up, and I just realized I made Dad a class that rages. That was unintentional, but alright, good for me. The event that draws Aisling's father to come save her, I'm not sure exactly how, I don't want to just hand wave it, I'll figure out some mechanics somewhere, will be the character's Mythic Apotheosis. After this happens, they will gain their first Mythic tier. They'll leave in some evil vampire edgelordy sort of way, but Aisling will know, in her heart of hearts, if she ever needs this mystery vampire's help again, she has but to mentally ask and they'll show up. But every time this happens, this thing that, remember, they're destined to fight at the end of the campaign will gain another Mythic tier. And they're gonna fight a lot of things throughout the course of the campaign where you might need to ask something that powerful for help. Great old ones are running around, we're planet hopping, there's Mythic NPCs already introduced. Not only will my players possess, like, the wealth by level and mythic powers necessary to overcome their trials, they'll have this thing in their back pocket that they can use as a short-term gain for long-term detriment. At the end of the game, however many times they've called Aisling's father to come help will be how many mythic tiers that vampire has when the inevitable confrontation happens. Now, for y'all who might not necessarily be playing a mythic game, this can run a bunch of different ways. Yes, it will require some powerful magic or GM shenanigan-y hand-waving. Probably, there are some scenarios, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, to make sure this NPC can always show up when they're needed to show up, but it doesn't necessarily have to be they gain a mythic rank. Maybe it is that the NPC only starts 5 levels higher than the party, and every time they show up, they gain a level. Maybe they start out a little under-geared, and by helping the party, they're able to something get closer to wealth by level. Maybe they attract more cohorts every time this happens. Maybe they just get to watch the party fight a little bit and get a little bit of metagame power. You know, because at this point the NPC knows they're going to be fighting someone who's built a certain way, and this is a good certain way to counter that certain way, as opposed to just like, I'm the GM, this is really good against everyone, stop looking at me funny, of course I have deflect arrows, you nerd. Or, instead, if the boss knows they're fighting an archer who likes to vital strike, taking deflect arrows, pretty smart for their long-term survivability. By using this strategy, a bunch of things for the narrative are accomplished, which is kind of the whole point here. First and foremost, you get to establish the boss as not just somebody sitting at the bottom of a dungeon, and then when you show up they go, mwah, ah, 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 and then their name scrolls at the bottom and you're suddenly fighting them in a closed arena. This is a character that very well could interact with the party in the space between the combat and when they depart, establishing a relationship between the players and the boss, while also letting your players see what's coming so they too can hedge their bets a little. It also allows your players to swing a little bit above their weight class if they're willing to accept the consequences. Something along the lines of, say, like infiltrating a castle. You could go super sneaky and maybe get caught, and maybe it'll be really hard for you. You could storm the gates and maybe it'll go really bad for you, or either of those options, but ask this NPC for help, and this thing they must do becomes easier to accomplish. That's double useful if the party is a party of players that aren't super good in low-level play. Your wizards, your groups without elephant in the room that takes a little longer to get to dex to damage with their weapons, need a bunch of feats, magic items to come online. This can make sure they survive it, and by the time they're built up and ready, they can stand against what still most likely will be a challenging fight. It also allows a player who's invested something into their backstory to make them feel special. In the case of my player, it's, well, I have this really important NPC in my life. Okay, cool. This is how we can implement that in such a way that you aren't taking the spotlight and you're not the last boss, but it's something you, the person who's at the table, ergo, more important than a bunch of the other NPCs in the world, and arguably more important than the plot I've built itself, to have a constant running piece of the narrative, because at the end of the day, That's what TTRPGs are. It's the narrative between the player and the GM. Keeping that empathic game of tennis going, as it were, means everybody's having more fun. But I digress. What do y'all think? Got a boss you could use this for? Have you used something like this in the past? Let me know all about it in the comments below. And as always, thank y'all so much for watching. We'll see you next time.